What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today, as the title and thumbnail suggests, we're going to be doing part 1 or the movie special of What If Deku was Trafalgar Law's Reincarnation. Thank you again for Archimedes Aizen for being willing to participate in this video. Make sure y'all check out his channel, which will be linked in the description below, as well as his Discord server, and his YouTube channel will be in the pinned comment. So yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Without further ado, cue the intro. Video off as we see two individuals. Now these two individuals are deep in the forest as they're having a picnic not too far by from their log cabin that they were staying in for the past few weeks. Now these two individuals are Inko and Hisashi Midoriya, as they are celebrating their 3rd year anniversary of marriage. As Inko and Hisashi were having a very good time, joking around and just completely enjoying each other's presence. As Hisashi started to, feel something was off, as a few minutes later, Inko screamed, and the screams just got louder and louder, so much that she started to cry, since she was having an immense amount of pain in her stomach area as she felt something pop, letting her know that she was entering labor. As she told Hisashi, I'm entering into labor. As he says, wait, what? As she says, yeah, you're gonna have to deliver it. Since you are a doctor, this shouldn't be too hard, but, I don't know if we have all the right materials here. As she starts to moan out in pain. As she says, alright, stay right here, I'll be right back. As about 5 minutes later, we see Hisashi going right back into the picnic area as he brings out a lot of towels and a small tub that will be used to hold the baby filled with water. As she says, alright, how much longer do you think until your water will break? I don't think it will be much longer, maybe a few seconds, says Inko, as she starts to scream out more and more in pain. About 3 minutes later, she feels her water burst as Hisashi says, alright, lay back on your back and just try to grab something. As she grabbed onto the basket for support, as she says, alright, I'm trusting you, Hisashi, as she gives him a bright smile before continuing to scream out in pain. As we see Hisashi says, alright, as he lifts up the skirt of his wife, as she starts to bring a towel there and starts to see something popping out, as Inko starts to scream more and more as her grip on the basket starts to make the basket break, as a head starts popping through. As Hisashi says, don't worry, Inko, I can see the head. It'll only be a few more minutes. Just please stick it out for me. As Inko tries to give a slight nod before jolting her head back as she screams another loud moan of pain. As about 5 minutes later, we see Inko starting to calm down a little bit more, as we see Hisashi carrying and holding the newborn baby as he dumps the baby into the tub, as he tries to rinse off some of the blood that was covering the baby, as he used the towel and starts to rock the baby slowly back and forth, as the baby starts to cry out, as he says, there, little one. Now let me break down the description of the baby. Now the baby has jet black hair, as he has some similar hair as Law does in the original, but it's just his babyfied version, so it won't be as spiky nor as long, but it looks almost identical to that, as he also has jet black eyes, a trait that he took from his father. He also had jet black hair and jet black eyes. As Inko tried to lean up, as Hisashi says, wait, no, Inko, you're still not in any means to move right now. Just try to lay there, and I'll carry you inside. As Hisashi picks up his wife, as he unlocks the door, as he places her on the couch, running back outside for his child, but fortunately he forgot to take the baby out of the pool of water, as to his dismay the baby drowned to death. As we see Hisashi start to cry, as he says, no, not again. This can't be happening. Not again. As tears start to flow down Hiyashi's face, as we skip to a completely different universe, as we see Trafalgar Law, as he's surrounded by his best friend, Monkey D. Luffy, as he says, well, Luffy, I guess it's my time. As we see commotion in the background, as cannons are firing, and as Devil Fruit users are using their Devil Fruits as well as their Hakis to try to defend off against the Marines. As we see Luffy say, no, we can save you. We can find a doctor. We can do something. Please, just don't die on me. Come on, stay. Keep your eyes open. As he starts to cry, as he starts to wipe the tears from his eyes, as Law says, that would be nice if I could, if we could survive, but it's my diagnosis that I should be dead in about 5 to 10 minutes, as he gives his friend a smile. But we had a good run, didn't we, Luffy? As Luffy says, don't speak like that. You're not gonna die. You can't die. As he says, it'll be fine. Tell everyone I said goodbye, and tell all of our fellow pirates comrades to keep the faith. And I believe that one day you will become the next king of the pirates, Luffy. Just keep on believing. As he breathes his last breath, as his eyes started to fade of all color, as his face started to turn pale, as Luffy starts to scream and say, no! No. As we now see Law, as he was expecting to see the bright light that everyone described, but instead he woke up in a room full of screens showing his entire life. As he looks around and says, what is this? Is this my judgment? Is this hell? What is this? As we hear a voice, as he said, Trafalgar Law, this is your life, and you have been deemed worthy of coming back. As he says, what? Coming back? Like reincarnation? As he says, yes, you are one of the very few people that we deem worthy enough to have a second chance of life, since your original life wasn't so, as we could say, great, and we apologize for that. But, everyone's life has to be filled with some challenges, as Law understood. As he says, so what does this mean for me? Am I going to be coming back into my body? As he says, no, you'll be going into a completely different universe, as we see a new set of memories. As Law says, how old is this person that I'll be going into? As he says, well, as you can see by the monitors, he didn't really have much memories, so you can make your guess that you'll be going into a newborn's body. As he says, a child? So what would that mean for me? Will I regain my memories of my past life? As he says, no, that's the sacrifice of reincarnation. You will have a completely new fresh start, and you will never remember who you used to be, who any of your friends were. None of it. All of it will be erased, except for the people that knew you. They will continue your memories on, as he says. So that's the price to pay for reincarnation, huh? Or at least a second chance of life. Screw it, I'll take it. It's better than maybe what my other option would be, and just in having nothingness for the rest of my time in this universe. As we see a person over the speaker system who was talking to Law say, "Very well, prepare to enter into the body. If you have any last things you would like to see about your life, any happy moments that you would like to see as the last thing you remember, you have about 10 minutes to play it. At least 10 minutes in our time. That will be about 2 minutes in the real world." As he says, "Enjoy your final 10 minutes of being Trafalgar Law." As he says, "Thank you, sir." As he looks over in all of his life, he looks over seeing his closest friends, seeing the Straw Hats, and just enjoying his life. He remembers seeing how he got his devil fruit and the man sacrificed for himself, as he will forever be grateful for him. As he starts to shed some tears from his eyes, as he says, "I'm ready." As he says, "Very well. Have a nice life." As he is hit by a bright light, as he is entered into the body of the young child, as he starts to cough and starts to cough up all of the water that was in his tiny lungs. As we see, he's still mourning his loss of his second child, as he looks over and notices that the baby is breathing again. As he says, "What? Is this a miracle? Thank you, God. Thank you for giving me my child back. Thank you. You have no understanding of how grateful I am. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." As he starts to lift his hands up, as he starts to cry tears of joy, as he brings the child into his wife, as the wife says, "What took you so long?" As he says, "Sorry, I something happened that I had to deal with." As he wipes the tears away, as she says, "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, everything's great. I think everything's better than okay." As she smiles. "Now hand me my beautiful baby boy." As we now have a time skip of 4 years, as we see Izuku walking into his first day of preschool. Now, off the rip, they notice that Izuku was very different from the children. He wasn't as curious, and he didn't scream as much. He was a lot quieter. He had a lot of weird things that he could do, such as lifting up a desk, which was very, very weird for a 4-year-old to do, but they just thought it was part of his quirk, as they just passed it off by that. As Izuku did have some friends, and these friends were Katsuki Bakugo and the lackeys from the original timeline. Now, since they thought that Izuku got his quirk first, in this timeline, Izuku was looked up as the Bakugo figure to the group, as he was the head honcho, as they followed him. As in this timeline, Izuku would no longer be called Deku, since he has a quirk, at least to their knowledge. He had super strength, but little did they know that's not even the start of his capabilities. As we skip forward about another year, on this fateful day, Izuku, his mother, and his father were flying on their private jet to visit Hawaii, something that they wanted to do for a long time. And since Izuku was now 5 and now was about old enough to be traveling, they decided, hey, screw it, let's just go to Hawaii. And if you're asking why did they have a private jet, now Izuku's parents are one of the best doctors in all of Japan, so they would be very wealthy, having their own chains of medical institutes as well as hospitals and research facilities. Some of these are called the Midoriya Research Center, as well as the Midoriya Medical Institute, as well as the Midoriya Medical Center. These chains were so common in all of Japan now that the Midoriyas were looked up to some holier than than thou figures, Some of the smartest people in the world that even looked up to the Midoriyas because of just how smart that they had to be to create this much of a successful business, and they were helping out people, so that made them look even better in the public's eyes. As like I was saying, they're traveling to Hawaii, as we see Inko, Hisashi, and Izuku all gather around playing some cards, enjoying each other's company and having fun. But the pilot said, Mr. and Mrs. Midoriya, we have an issue, as they see that the plane is starting to descend rapidly, as Hisashi says, don't just stand here. Why aren't you trying to bring up the plane? As they said, it's stuck in autopilot mode. As he said, then someone get it unstuck. As they said, okay sir, we're gonna try. As we now have Inko and Hisashi and Izuku huddled together, as Izuku says, Mommy, Daddy, is everything okay? As they say, yeah, Izuku, everything's gonna be fixed, don't worry. As he says, okay, Mom and Dad, as he starts to smile again, as they start to hear something in the distance, as they start to hear the engine stopping, as their plummet starts to speed up rapidly, as they're seconds away from crashing into the water. As the pilot says, sir, there's nothing we can do. We're sorry that we couldn't do more. As he says, it's fine. Do you have any family that you can call before we crash? As they said, yes, we already did. As he said, okay, very well. Well, looks like this is the end. As Hisashi and Inko smile at their child who's crying and say, what's happening, Mom and Dad? What's happening? As they say, nothing, son. Everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. As they crash into water, as everything starts to flicker off and on. As Inko smashes her back against the other side of the plane, as Hisashi says, Inko, as the windows start to crack, as they say, well, I guess this is the end. As they cover the ears of Izuku and says, we're all gonna die. As they all start to face the brutal realization that they're gonna die. One by one, they're gonna drown. But Izuku says, what's happening, Mom? I thought you said everything was fine. As Inko says everything is fine, as she tries to give her son a fake smile. As Izuku instinctively held on to his father, since that was the closest thing by him, as he squeezed him and started to hug him and say, Dad, are we gonna be fine? Come on, I just need you to tell me we're gonna be fine. Come on, please, Dad, please. If you tell me that, I know it's true. As he just gave his son a worried smile, as instinctively something just started to control him, as he just says shambles, as he then switches his and his dad's position with some of the wreckage that was floating on top of the water. As Inko was shocked and said, where are they? Where did they go? As Inko then says, well, I guess hopefully they escaped, but I guess it's my time to die. As she closed her eyes and remembers all of the happy moments of her life, finding out that she's gonna be a mother, seeing her child for the first time, seeing him grow up into a nice young boy, as she is content with her life, as the waters cover her and the pilots as they all drown. As we see Hisashi and Izuku on the top of some wreckage that was floating on the sea, as they say, what happened? Where's Mom? Where are we? As Izuku starts to cry, as Hisashi says, I don't know, kid, but something you said, apparently it transferred us out of the plane, and then now we're here. And since we're floating on the plane's wreckage, we can assume that the plane is not too far below us. As he says, "All right, we gotta go get mom." As he tries to dive into the water, as Hiyashi holds on to him and says, "I'm sorry, kid, but mom's dead." As he starts to cry and say, no, you're lying. We're gonna go get mom. We're gonna go save her. She's not dead. She's not gone. As he starts to cry and starts to pound onto Hisashi's chest, as he starts to give his child a sad smile, as he says everything will be fine. As we now skip over to when Izuku and Hiyashi are in a hospital room as they're getting treated for some injuries, like Hiyashi had a broken rib from after they went into the water. He slammed into the side of the plane as some of his ribs started to break. But other than that, he was pretty much fine. No long-lasting injuries, and his ribs should be healed in about 2 weeks or so. So he'll have to be staying in the hospital for about a day, and he'll be released. But he was warned that he shouldn't make any big movements, shouldn't try to do anything that physical, and should try to refrain from doing much active stuff. As he says, okay, as police officers tries to walk in and tries to, ask Hayashi what happened and what does he remember, but his partner stops him saying, "Hey man, he's grieving. We can always come back another time, and we always know where he lives, and we can always ask him for a statement on another time. But let's just let him have time to grieve." As he says, "Okay." As we now have a time skip of 11 years to the end of middle school, as Izuku during this time changed very much. Even though he would play around with his friends, he is now a lot more serious about his studies, and he wanted to gain a lot more strength, so he decided to work out now, and he was a lot more serious and a lot more like Law, deciding to take up learning medicine because that's what his mom did, and he wanted to honor his late mother. And since he couldn't save her, he would hope that he could save as many people that he could, whether that meant being a doctor or a pro hero. But he wanted to be a pro hero a little bit more than he wanted to be a doctor, because even though he got to save people, he got to take down some bad guys, which he thought would be pretty cool. He would be like his hero All Might. Yes, even in this timeline, Izuku's hero is still All Might, even though he is no longer that big fanboy that he was in the original counterpart. He is still technically a fan of heroes, and he wants to be like his hero All Might. But even though his favorite hero is All Might, his overall hero is his father, because that's the man that he looks up to the most. That's the man that raised him as a single father for the past 11 years. Even though he was a key part of many hospitals, many research facilities, he still made time to be with his son, always showing up to his baseball games, always showing up to whenever he needed him, always being the best dad he ever could wish for. So for that, he will always be his number one hero. Even though All Might is a second, he's nowhere close compared to his father. Now, like I said, we skip to when Izuku is 15, and he is in the final few days of school, where the school teacher says, like in canon, so we're going to be having some tests today to figure out what field you guys will be best suited in, as he's about to pass out the papers, as he gets groans and moans from all of his students, as he just says, "Just kidding, I know all of you guys want to be heroes," as he throws up the paper, as all of the class, except for 2, start to use their quirk, and just starts to, have a good time, as these 2 people are Bakugo and Izuku, 2 of the strongest in their whole class, as the teacher said, yes, I know all of you guys are very happy, but still, rules are rules, and you guys aren't allowed to use your quirks during class. As they said, "Yes, sir," as they all stopped doing their quirk. As we skip to about a few hours later, as Izuku says, wait, my dad's coming home from America today. I'm gonna have to make sure I get home extra quick. As he says bye to Bakugo, as Bakugo says bye back to his only friend, as he runs off, as he decides to take a shortcut this time, as he says, yes, how long has it been? A few weeks since Dad's been home? This will be so fun, and since we're almost all for summer break, we can hang out the whole time. We could chill, we can watch movies, we can go to baseball games. It will just be so fun, just me and him. As Izuku cheerfully runs down the iconic tunnel, as we hear something in the background saying, "Nope, this isn't personal, kid, but I need your body. I didn't know the freak was in town." As he comes up behind him and starts to consume Izuku in his sludge, as Izuku starts to struggle and says, "Don't struggle. It'll only take a few seconds and then you'll be dead. You won't feel a thing and your body won't be useful anymore. And therefore, you would make my day if you allow me to use your body to escape from that freak." As he says, "I'm flattered you pick me, but I'm good." As he says, "Shambles." As he switches himself out for a can, as he teleports back out of the sludge villain's body, as he says, "What's this, kid? And how'd you get out? And why is there a can inside of me?" As he said, it's my abilities." As he picks up a stick, as he says, "Shambles" again, as he starts to rapidly cut up the sludge villain. Well, not really doing much damage, but stalling enough time for All Might to come and say, "I am here," and doing the final blow, doing a Detroit smash, and destroying the sludge villain. As All Might turned around and said, "Thank you, kid, for helping me stop the sludge villain. You did Japan a great service." As he started to walk away with the sludge villain in different bottles, as he says, "Wait, All Might, can I have an autograph? I already signed it." As he says, "Wait, you did?" As he says, "Check your back pocket, kid." As he checked his back pocket to see an All Might signature, alongside a drawing of All Might's face, as he says, "Thank you. Have a great day, Mr. All Might." As he says, "You do the same, kid. And the future will be strong with a lot of strong potential like you." As he says, "Thank you, All Might, and have a great day." He says, "You do the same, kid." As he says, I hope I can see a lot more of you as you grow up to be a fine hero, if that's what you want to be." As he says, "Of course, it's my dream." As he says, "Good. Then make sure you never settle, and always train, because you never know. Maybe you might become the #1 hero one day." As he says, "Thank you, sir." As All Might blasts off, as he says, "Thanks to that, kid, I might have enough time to get one more villain. As in this timeline, the sludge villain will never escape. Therefore, Deku won't get one for all. As, you know, he never saved Bakugo. And he doesn't really need one for all in this timeline since he has his own powers. Well, he has Law's powers, and that will be very strong in this series." As we now skip over to the 10 months of training. Now, in this timeline, Izuku, since he doesn't have one for all, won't be trained by All Might during the 10 months. So, Izuku will be just training some of his abilities. He'll be training his shambles, he'll be collecting more items for his room, and he'll also take some classes in sword fighting, since he's decided that, you know, it would be cool if he had a sword, you know? It might help him one day. As he decided to get a long sword, just like the sword that is shown in the thumbnail, the same one that Law has. As we now skip over to the day of the entrance exams, when Hisashi wakes Izuku up and said, "You ready, kid? Today's the day of the entrance exam." And he said, "I'm more than ready, Dad." As Hisashi says, "I bet your mom would be so proud seeing you today." As Izuku says, "Yeah, I'm doing this for Mom." As he hugs his dad and say, "Well, see you later, Dad." As he says, "See you later, son. Make sure you make me and your mother proud." As he says, "Will do." As he takes out his bike from the garage, as he rides his bike about 10 minutes to you, as he walks up, as he sees the school. He sees it. It's UA. It's even better in person, and it's giant. As he confidently walks into UA with his sword on his back, as in this timeline he never trips and walks and bumps into Uraraka, since in this timeline he's a lot more sure in his skills and isn't scared at all. As he does very good in the test, scoring about a 92, which is very, very good, since this test was made by one of the smartest creatures on planet Earth. As Izuku was very proud of himself. He said he think he did well, and he think he's gonna get a good score and a good grade on it. As he walks up and enters into the auditorium, preparing to get the explanation for the next exams. As same thing that happens in canon, as Ida questions President Mike about the fourth robot that was written down on the pamphlets, and if he said that was a mistake, that would be very, very bad on the reputation of UA, and that might not be as good of a school that he thought it was, and he might not want to come here anymore. As President Mike say, first of all, no one's making you come here. You don't have to be here if you don't want to be here. As some of the students start to chuckle, and he says, be quiet. That's not nice to be laughing at maybe one of your fellow students. As they say, yeah, whatever, man. As President Mike say, too, I was about to get to that, as he says, like the blue hair boy said, there is a fourth robot, but that's pretty much just an obstacle for your way that you should be avoiding by any means possible. As he says, well, if you exit the auditorium at the back exit, there'll be buses waiting for you to pick you up and enter you and take you to where the final exams will be held. As we see a boatload of students entering and piling up, waiting to enter into their assigned facility, hype to start the exams that very well will be the determining factor if they get into the hero course or not. As we see President Mike saying, there's no countdown in the battle, go, go, go. As all the students start to rush off, as Law starts, or Izuku doesn't really rush off like the others, as he slowly walks and takes his time, as he says shambles, as we see some robots' heads start to switch off with cans and stuff like that, stuff that he just has in his room. As they say, wow, look at that kid, he seems strong. As we see the 0-pointer pull up, as Uraraka, like the same time, gets trapped under, as she's saying, help, help, help. As we see Izuku running towards the 0-pointer, unsheathing his sword, as he jumps up and cuts the 0-pointer right in half. But guys, that's where we're going to be ending the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my part. Well, not really ending the video, I'll be ending my part. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Again, thank you, Aizen, for being willing to do this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy his part. Again, if you guys like it, sub to his channel, I'll leave his in the pinned comments. But again, it's Zero, and I'm out. Peace.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's Archimedes Aizen here, and I'm actually doing my part for the feature for What If Deku was Trafalgar Law's reincarnation. Now, basically, we left off where Zero basically, stopped, and it was after the entrance exams. Now, in my part, I'll be going from the end of the entrance exams all the way to the end of the USJ. So, yeah, you won't be seeing me much, but it is what it is. So, basically, when Deku would probably just, destroy a lot of robots in that entrance exams, and he would ace the written exams, you basically pass, it's not even, it's 100% chance he's joining. So, basically, Deku would walk home after pretty much, doing the entrance exams. He would then get out his key and he would unlock the door to his house or apartment, and he would pretty much probably know that he's home alone since his dad is a surgeon, so he doesn't have much time to be at home. So pretty much when he would get in the door or in the house, he would pretty much take a shower, since he literally took the entrance exams. He's sweating, he's tired. So basically, when Naruto or my bad, Deku would kind of be sitting down, he would be thinking, whenever I use those abilities like of mine for the Obi Obi no Mi, I for some reason it comes after my stamina. So maybe this weekend before I get the leather, I will actually train so I can extend my endurance with my stamina, so I can actually use the abilities more. And he would probably, and then like he would get a flashback to when he was cutting down the 0 pointer. So unconsciously he felt like a power surrounding his sword before he would split the robot in half, just like per usual. So Deku would remember this and he'd try to use it on his hand. Now when he tried to like pull out the same feeling he kept, like he like kind of just like engraved it into his soul, the feeling of using hockey. So he would kind of just use it again. So once this would happen, he would easily like the black markings of hockey, arm and hockey would cover his whole right arm, and he realize he can use this on other parts of his body and his sword, anything that he uses. So he, with this quick analysis, since he is pretty smart and Law is pretty smart, you would realize that this black armor actually protects him from anything, and that it's impenetrable, similar to like one of the quirks of Kirishima, but Kirishima's can't be penetrated while Deku's can. So basically, after Deku would realize this, he pretty much is gonna train for the rest of the weekend. He wants to get these techniques down. So after Deku would spend the rest of the weekend training his armament hockey and his observant hockey and also his Obi Obi no Mi abilities. Like, he won't be able to use observant hockey much, but at least it's something, observant is observant. You have to literally put yourself in a dangerous situation to unlock it. You would either have to like have a blindfold, or it would have to be in a high stress situation. So basically, after Deku would spend the rest of the weekend training, the next morning of where he would get the leather, he would hear a knock at his door, and he would walk up to the door and he would open it to see these two agents in like black suits pretty much. The agent would pretty much hand him this a letter, and this would have the UA insignia. I said that right, but basically the signature. So he would be pretty excited before he would close the door and go walk over to his room. He would then sit down on his chair and put the the letter on the floor, the desk, and then it would pretty much, the letter would open it by itself. Like, he would open the letter and a message would pop up, like a voice recording, and like not a voice recording, and like a telegram, like so like a video recording. So basically, All Might would be there. He's like, aha, young Midoriya. In the entrance exams, you excelled in defeating the robots, and you are quite pristine in your intelligence. So you actually got around maybe 120 villain points, and since you saved young Uraraka, you actually got 60 rescue points. Since all about being a hero is rescuing innocent lives and taking down the villains, so you got both of those things down. So in total, you got around 180 points. This is this actually beats my record. So I congratulate you, Izuku Midoriya, and welcome you to UA Academia. Come to your hero academia, something like that. So after All Might would pretty much tell him the message, and the message would start to self-destruct, and pretty much after All Might would tell him that he's in 1A, Deku would be pretty excited, since he did make it into UA. So he's going to be excited. But basically, Deku would pretty much get into his bed and sleep for the rest of the night before he'd wake up the next morning, get up, and put on his UA uniform, similar to one in canon, with the short tie. That is just short tie though. But basically, Deku would put on the UA uniform before put on like Law sweater. Since bro, that is drippy though, like no cap. So basically, Deku would walk up to his closet, open it, and get the sword, Law's sword, before he would, head towards, UA, via car. Let's just say he drives a car. Honestly, he's 15, so, it's Japan, so I'm twisting the plot here, okay? Why not? So basically, he would drive to school, and once he would get there, he would walk into like the UA building, and then he would pretty much like kind of like follow the signs for each class all the way until he would get to a class called 1A. Now he'd look at the door, and he is pretty tall, around 5'10", 5'11", but this door seemed way too big. It's like for people like who are at least 12 feet tall. But he'd probably summarize it to people having quirks that make them tall or giants. So he'd walk in and pretty much sit down by the desk. Now, pretty much the whole Bakugo telling Ida to basically piss off after Ida would say, don't put your legs on the table, since upperclassmen actually took time to make that desk. So pretty much, Bakugo and Ida would still have the same dialogue, and Bakugo would be pretty pissed that he sees Deku there. But he can't really do anything about it, since Deku has been really like putting Bakugo in his place every time Bakugo's trying to mess with him. So he really couldn't do anything. So basically, after Deku would sit down, he'd basically be chilling. And around 10 minutes later, Aizen would come in basically saying, 8 seconds to be quiet, that's too long. Your upcoming heroes, you should be quiet, and we have training to do. So pretty much Aizawa would then open his sleeping bag, and pretty much everyone think that he was a caterpillar before he would open the sleeping bag, and then he would like reach into the sleeping bag and pull out the UA uniforms, the gym uniforms. So basically he said everyone change into these uniforms and meet me outside for a quick apprehension test. Now, pretty much, Uraraka would say, don't we have, I forgot, orientation? But then, Aizawa would say that, we don't really need to do that. He would probably say something. That's just like a short version of what I said. So, basically, Aizawa would say, it's a waste of time. So basically, all the students would basically change into the UA uniforms. After I say basically a lot, nah, just kidding. But they would change into the UA uniforms, or not the uniforms, but the gym clothes, and they would head downstairs with Kirishima, Deku, and Mineta having their same dialogue. I mean, not that Deku is talking Mineta, but Mineta is doing what he usually does, and we all know what he does. So basically, once 1A would head downstairs, Deku would then be thrown a ball by Aizawa, and Aizawa would basically tell him to throw the ball as far as you can. Like, he doesn't care how he gets it there, just don't pass that circle. So pretty much Deku would say, okay. He would then pretty much, get the ball and infuse Arminate Haki into the ball, or into his arm. And since he has a long sweater, it's pretty much a long sleeve sweater, nobody can see him activating Arminate Haki. So he'd activate Arminate Haki and pretty much throw the ball as far as he can. And pretty much he'd be turning around to basically say he's finished, but out of nowhere, his observant Haki would be, awakened, or he would feel something coming towards him behind him. He would then turn around and grab the bandages that come from Aizawa, what are they called? But basically, it's what Aizawa uses to capture people, his capture tape. So Aizawa would say, why are you holding back? Go all out. You would pretty much kind of like reprimand Deku for not using his full power. Deku would then say, alright. He would then grab pretty much another ball, and he would get a stone out of his bag. Now he would throw the stone as far as he can with all of his Arminate Haki, and then he would grab the ball and pretty much throw it. And then he would use Chambras, Chambras. I think that's what it says in the manga. But he would use Chambras and switch places between the ball and the stone. So once this would happen, the ball would be sent towards the same distance as the stone was, and the stone would be back in Deku's hand. Now, everyone would be astonished by Deku's, distance, and Aizawa's monitor, the one that monitored the distance the ball went, it would kind of do it like a error sign, since Deku threw it out of space, pretty much. So the satellites that capture how far it went, it was out of range, so it just said error. So pretty much after Deku would get the error, everyone assumed that he just threw it out of the atmosphere. So yeah, after this would happen, Aizawa would say, now that's some good potential. But in his mind, he'd be like, this kid, he's gonna be a wonderful pro hero, maybe better than All Might, since he remembers that some record that All Might didn't even get this long. So like whenever he was a student at UA. So pretty much after Aizawa would throw the ball to Deku, all the test, the assessment, the apprehension tests would go similar to canon, with Deku just pretty much doing better than he did in canon. Like in the race with Bakugo, he just used Chambras and appeared by the finish line in maybe like 0.50 seconds. So yeah, that would be the end of the quirk apprehension test. And pretty much after that would happen, all the UA students would start to get to know each other, like 1A. And they would, make their own friend groups and stuff like that. And pretty much the friend group would be, just like in canon, Deku, Uraraka, and Ida. Now, pretty much once this friend group is formed, they kind of just spend the rest of the day just chilling, since Deku knows that, when he gets home, he's going to be home alone anyway. Since that's pretty much like what he's been at like ever since like the plane crash. So pretty much after Deku would spend the day with his friends, he would then head back home, watch some TV, and pretty much head to bed. Now after he would basically sleep, he would wake up the next day, get on his UA uniform, get a sword, and pretty much head to school. Now once he'd get to school, he'd walk into class and sit with his friends before All Might would come running through the door saying, "I'm coming through the door like a normal person." Now everyone would think the same thought of basically saying that that's not normal, but All Might would be in his Silver Age costume, so some people would get like some nostalgia vibes, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, it's All Might's in the Silver Age outfit," basically saying stuff like that. Now after like pretty much all the students saying this, All Might would be like, would get his like use a remote, and a bunch of suitcases would appear. Now there'd be name tags on all of these, and everyone would get their respective suitcase before they would head back to their seats. Now Deku would walk up to his suitcase, and he would pick up his suitcase before heading back to his seat. He didn't open the suitcase, pretty much seeing Law's outfit. That's what's gonna be Deku's hero suit. So All Might would say, "You can all go change," and pretty much when Deku went to go change, everyone would be like, "Yo, that's just a drippy outfit." They honestly, they are not capping. That outfit is drippy. But basically, once Deku would get on the drip, the heroes versus villains arc would happen, with the 2v2 arc happening. So the placements will be just like in canon. It'd be Deku and Uraraka versus Ida and Bakugo. Now pretty much what would happen is, once the little bit before the trials would happen, or the battle would happen, Deku would tell Uraraka that Bakugo is probably gonna come after him, and that you should be able to get the bomb, since I think you should handle Ida, or you could handle Ida. Uraraka would pretty much say, "Yeah, I could," and pretty much the battle would start. Now once the battle would start, Deku would just be waiting in the middle of the hallway, giving a distraction to Uraraka so she can head up there and defuse the bomb. So out of nowhere, an explosion would happen to the right of Deku, and Deku's observant haki would activate, and he would move out the way just in time. Now after this, Bakugo would come pretty much exploding his way in. That is no pun intended. Now pretty much once Bakugo would introduce himself quite loudly, he would pretty much say that he's gonna beat Deku. And just letting you know, guys, Bakugo's not like his canon self. He's not like the bully we know and hate or love, or whatever. He's kind of like friends with Deku now. Like a little bit after a few years of Deku and Bakugo kind of having a few scuffles, they became friends. So they're just not like best friends, they're just like acquaintances. So after the battle would start, Deku would unsheath his sword and appear behind Bakugo before trying to amputate him. But Bakugo would try to use an explosion as like a shield of defense, so Deku's sword wouldn't be able to reach him. But pretty much Deku would be like, "Osoi," or "too slow," before he'd appear behind Bakugo and use radio knife. He would then slash 4 places of Bakugo's body before he would turn around, and Bakugo would kind of get sliced in 4. Now once this would happen, Bakugo's whole body would be electrified, and Deku would sheath his sword before the cuts on Bakugo would be visible, and he'd say, "Radio knife." And now after this, the attack would be complete, and pretty much Bakugo would be put down for the count. And don't worry, Deku is gonna reassemble his body, but for now he's gonna be a little, he's gonna feel a little bit uncomfortable, having your body pretty much amputated. So Deku would run up the stairs to see Uraraka kind of in a battle with Ida, but she couldn't really find any objects to turn into zero gravity. So Deku would just throw a stone towards Ida, and pretty much he would have Uraraka use her zero gravity on it, and Ida couldn't really stop it. So like Deku would use the Shambras, using room Shambras, and appear, like, switch places with the rock and the stone, and he'd appear right next to Ida before he'd pretty much use amputate on him, kind of just ending him, not killing him, but like knocking him out. So once this would happen, Deku would then see Uraraka touch the bomb, and it would finally win. So Deku would then touch Ida and restore him back to his original form, for restoring Bakugo to his original form, kind of doing like a GG's. Now, after this would happen, pretty much all the other battles would go straight to canon, since I'm not going to go over that, since it's kind of boring. So pretty much Deku would pretty much head home after kind of just chilling, and instead of like when All Might and Bakugo would have a talk. Now, pretty much in this timeline, I don't know who's getting one for all, but I'm pretty much saying that Bakugo would get one for all. I just want to, I think Zero will be fine with this, but basically I'm saying Bakugo gets one for all, even though he's going to die young, unfortunately, but Zero can work his magic. Now, pretty much after Deku would finish school, he would then grab his backpack and his sword before heading towards his car and pretty much driving home. Now, once he'd drive home, he'd open the door and basically walk into his house before sitting down and pretty much, just chilling. Now, the next day, he would pretty much just like chill for the rest of the day, and we'll time skip to the next day. Now, once Deku would wake up on the next day, pretty much the day of the USJ, he would then get up and pretty much eat his breakfast, which would be some eggs and hash brown, even though, like, it is in Japan, so they have different meals, but I'm just making up a guess here. Deku would then drink some tea before getting on his UA uniform and pretty much walking out. Now, Deku pretty much likes to wake up early, around 6 a.m., so he'd head to school pretty much early, since the school started at around 7 a.m., so he'd be getting there a little earlier than usual. Now, once Deku would walk in, he'd pretty much say Aizawa was sleeping, and he'd just sit down. He would pretty much start reading his book, and all the other students would start to slowly start joining up. Now, pretty much Deku would be approached by two people. This would be Kirishima and Mina. Now, they pretty much say, that was so epic what you did yesterday in the, Heroes versus Villains training exercise. Deku would be like, oh, really? I mean, it wasn't much. I just needed to, incapacitate them. After this, Kirishima would say something like, yo, you're so manly. Something like he would usually say. Now, after everyone in class would show up, Aizawa would then go over what happened yesterday and pretty much, tell Deku, like, he wouldn't really say anything to Bakugo, since he wasn't, like, Bakugo isn't like his canon self, so basically everyone would have done good, and Aizawa would pretty much tell Deku, good job, in incapacitating the villains, and then working together with Uraraka to basically defuse the bomb. They didn't really defuse the bomb, but something similar to that. Now, pretty much after Aizawa would say this, Aizawa would probably say that they're pretty much starting to vote to see who will become the class president and the class vice president of their student council thing, of class, like 1A. So everyone would get notepads and a pen with the help of Momo Yarirozu's quirk, and pretty much she would start to hand out papers and pens, and they would start to all write down their votes. Now, pretty much Ida would bring up the whole democracy thing, and that they should use a democratic way to vote. So everyone would vote, and pretty much everyone would turn it in before they would count the votes, and pretty much Deku got 11 votes, and Momo Yarirozu got 7 votes. So Deku would be class president, and Momo would be vice president. So Deku and Momo would pretty much kind of like walk up to the front of the class and say some sappy shit of how they'll be good representatives of the class. Not that it's sappy, but I don't want to repeat what they said. Now, pretty much after this would happen, Class 1A would the bell would ring for lunch, and they would head over to lunch, and Deku would eat his usual katsudon. Since, bro, just because Deku is Law's reincarnation doesn't mean he's not gonna like that busting katsudon. Though pretty much Deku would be eating it, or he would finish eating it until like the alarms would start. Now, or they would start to ring. Now, all the students would start to run around, basically in a state of panic, and pretty much Uraraka and Ito would have that plan. Like, Deku would come up with a plan, basically telling Uraraka and Ida and Momo to Momo would make a speaker, and pretty much Uraraka would make Ida have zero gravity, and pretty much Ida would tell everyone to calm down, and as just a news reporters that intruded the building in a riot, pretty much. Now everyone would start to calm down after Ida's motivational speech, I guess you could say, and pretty much this would pretty much start that Deku giving Ida the role of class president. So Ito would now be the class president, and pretty much Aizawa would thank Deku for coming up with the plan, and just thank everyone that was involved. That pretty much calmed down the students, since bro, they were running around, bro. That was not a good day or a good moment. So after this would happen, the USJ arc would happen. Now pretty much everyone starts to get into the bus, and Suyu says, Midoriya, I asked pretty blunt questions, so be prepared. Now, Deku would say, go ahead. Now, Suyu would ask, what's your quirk? It seems a little odd. Now, Deku would pretty much say, my quirk, it's kind of like that of a doctor. I make a room, and everything I make in this room, I have control over, similar to a doctor in a surgery. So everyone would be quite intrigued by Deku's abilities, and they would say, why the sword? Deku would say he just liked it. He saw it in the store, and he just liked the way it looked. So pretty much everyone would nod at this, and pretty much they'd get to the USJ. Now, once they get to the USJ, they'd pretty much walk in, and once Deku would walk in, his observation hotkey would just be overloaded. His whole brain would be overloaded with nothing but killer intent. Now, Deku would have for a few seconds, his head would start to throb, and pretty much Deku would tell Aizawa that there's villains nearby. You can just feel it. Now, a portal would start to form in the middle of the USJ, and the villains would start to come out, and Shigaraki would see it's time to kill the symbol of peace. Now, pretty much Kirigiri would come out and say, "Where's All Might? He was scheduled to be here today," and pretty much the fight would happen. Now, Deku and Bakugo would start to basically try to take down Kirigiri with Deku throwing a stone towards Kirigiri and switching places with Bakugo and the stone. And Bakugo would try to use the explosion quirk, and he would hit the brace of, he would find out about the weakness of Kirigiri before Kirigiri would warp everyone to their respected areas, just like in canon. So Deku would be flying through the air, free falling, when he'd see the boat where Suya and Mineta would be there. Suyu and Mineta. Now pretty much Deku would say Asui and Yukai and Mineta, pretty much, and Asui would say it's Suyu, pretty much. I think that's her first name, and Asui is her last name, I think. Yeah, that's right. So they'd pretty much come up with a similar plan, with Deku in this timeline still using a lightning-based technique. Not that Deku and Kennen actually used a technique like that, but Deku would pretty much put all the armament and hockey in his sword before he'd be midair, and he would just slice it, kind of doing a 1080 720 pound, or a Getsuga Tensho. Now this wave of energy or energy-based attack would be sent towards the water, and this would kind of electrify the water, and it would knock out the water-based villains, the villains with water, shark mutation quirks. And basically Suyu would use her toad quirk to get them to the other side. Or toad quirk, I said frog quirk, I think frog quirk. Yeah, so once they get to the same area, in the main area of the USJ, they would see Aizawa getting his shit rocked by the Nomu, or this weird monster with a brain in the middle of its head. Now, once I see pretty much get Aizawa getting rocked, pretty much Shigaraki would kind of like blitz Suyu, going to disintegrate her. But Deku would see this and pretty much have like an emotional empowerment moment before he would like kind of scream out before like a huge wave of just Conqueror's Haki would escape from his body. Now, like, nobody knew there was Conqueror's Haki, but this wave of Conqueror's Haki would be sent towards Shigaraki, and he'd pretty much get sent flying into the Nomu, and the Nomu and the Shigaraki would get sent flying. Just they're just out of that USJ. Like, they pretty much got sent flying pretty far. Now, once Deku would pretty much recover from this, he would pretty much help Mineta and Suya up before All Might would come in, basically see like the Nomu and Shigaraki get sent out of the USJ. Now, this would pretty much be the end of the USJ attack, pretty much with Deku using unconscious Conqueror's Haki, and after the attack would happen, there would be a 2-week time skip to the sports festival. Now, Deku would spend these 2 weeks practicing Conqueror's Haki, and pretty much that would be the end of my part. Now, I'm going to hand the mic back to Zero so we can finish this movie special. But without further ado, guys, have a good day.
Thanks again, Aizen, for recording that. Hopefully you guys liked his part. If you guys liked it, like I said again, a million times, his link will be in the pinned comment, as well as his Discord. And yeah, his YouTube. If you guys like it, check it out. Join the Discord, But yeah, that will be the end of the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching this. If you guys watched it all the way through, I don't really make long videos, and it's probably going to take up a lot of storage. But, I'm glad that I made the video. I promised a while ago that I would do a longer video, as well as doing a what if Deku had the Opi Opi no Mi. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Again, part 2 of What If Deku Was Toto should be coming out soon. I'm making it now. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, I'm trying to find ideas for, like, what I should do with it. As well as part 4 of What If Deku Was Megami. But yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed. And it's Zero, and I'm out. Peace.